Me, Nikita, Patricia.
Hello, how are you?
We are really, really fine. Patricia, first of all, thank you very much for accepting the invite. We are gonna really try to learn as much as we can from you and your the experience that you have. Before we start, if it's fine with you, I got a short bio from you, and I would like to hear it or to read it.
Okay, sure.
So, Patricia Evelyn Green embraces the power of connectivity. Her credo: people do things for people, not for causes. So, relationships matter, is rooted in her core values. Patricia is a caring and competent leadership style that promotes goodwill. As a result, her business and professional network span the globe. Whether US correspondent for Middle East, whether US
Middle East,
correspondent for
Middle
Middle
East
East
Business News.
Business News, organizer of trade mission to the UK, or publicist to Dr. Donda West, mother of Kanye, and
Kanye.
organizer Kanye West, yeah, and organizer of a UK book tour, or co-moderator of What the Shoe, an intergeneration dialogue by African American women for African American women that airs via StreamYard on Sundays. Actually, we're going to talk about that too. You got that show happening just after us, I think.
Yes.
On Sundays, Patricia's personal leadership brand is memorable. Proof is recognition by PR News as one of 50 top game changer of PR who accelerate the expansion and growth of brand communication. There we go. Welcome to our show, Patricia.
And I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
So we are going to be having that conversation with my partner in crime, Nikita. And once again, the idea is to learn as much as we can. We're in a kind of a place where we encourage as many people as possible to start their business, to be really entrepreneur. But we also like to think that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. So instead of just jumping like a head first, why not actually learning from people who have already been there? That's quite a short journey for myself. Nikita got some experience too. For me, the entrepreneurship is still quite new, so I'm always happy to learn from people who, let's say, got a little more experience than we do. So that's why we invited you, Patricia.
Well, thank you. I hope I impart some knowledge that will give you some valuable takeaways.
I'm sure I already have some conversation with you, and I have to say I was amazed. The theme for today, obviously, it's really quite a free flow, but something that was really interesting is the story that you got about the resilience. Would you be able to tell the story about a parent that you visited and the advice that you shared to that parent?
Now, which story was that again? The
It was
parent.
a story. I found a beautiful story where I think you were visiting your mother, and there was like a rock.
Oh, keep the faith. My mom, my parent. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes, yes. My mother was in a nursing home and she did not want to be in a nursing home. I had my father, and so he was my responsibility. However, my brother was my mother's responsibility. He was unable to have her in his home. And so when he transferred her to the nearest nursing home, she was very upset about that. She had always put her children first, and I guess she thought that her children would not choose that way for her. But because of her mobility issues, it was the best thing in his mind to do. And so she started saying she wanted to die. Within less than a year of being there, she kept saying to everybody she wanted to die. And so I, at the time, was attending the Brahma Kumari Spirituality Center in Silver Spring, Maryland, where I used to live in that area. And I ran across a rock on the table to purchase items, and it said, "Keep the faith." And so I said, I'm going to buy this for Mama because she needs to keep the faith, that she can't die until it's time for her to die. And so I took the rock to her and I told her that I wanted her to hold tight to the rock and keep the faith. And she did not hesitate because she said, "Okay." I said, "You have to follow the will of God. You've always been a religious person. So God will bring you home, take you home when it's time." And so she held the rock in her hands. People were telling me she always had the rock in her hand. When I went there one day, she told me that she had fell asleep with the rock in her hand and that she woke up, it was still there. I said, okay, that means the divine hears you, because that's impossible. Well, one day they went in to take her breakfast, and she had ordered a certain meal. And so they were preparing that meal. And when they got back, she was deceased with a smile on her face. And so when my
Wow.
brother and his wife went in to collect her items, they couldn't find the rock. And so I said, well, I hope it's
Wow.
helping someone else keep the faith.
Wow. I'm not the only one who love that story. We get here a message from Sylvia. Love that story, Sylvia. I
My
love that
mother
story
was
too.
she was 96, I believe it was 96. And she had lived a life longer than she thought, but she had, I think, just separation from her children was very hard, as it was for my father when I had to put him in a nursing home.
Wow, that's a really beautiful
I just
story.
want to add, I wish could have been in a position to keep my father with me. However, I'm self-employed and I could not find reliable help. And it's almost like looking for reliable help for your children when you need a babysitter to go to work. Women have so many things on their plates every day to make decisions about.
Yeah, no, it's I really hear you. I'm also personally like caring about my mother, and that's a story is really really inspiring.
Mm,
Uh, I'm really thinking actually to find that kind of stone, because I found that really really a powerful story.
thank you.
Uh, Now, for me, it's really about like when you talk about keeping the faith as an entrepreneur, in a way, that's what sometimes can make the difference between bankruptcy and a really really successful business. So that's why I really want you to share that story, and then to tell us a little more about what entrepreneurs can do actually to deal with those challenges.
Yes. Well, I think first of all comes a plan, a realistic plan, and one that even for me, I decided I wanted to do trade missions to the UK. I didn't know anything about the UK other than that the British were the first established the first permanent English colony in Jamestown in 1607. Jamestown, Virginia, and along with that came the subjugation of Virginia Indians and subsequently 1619, the arrival of slaves. So I, being from Virginia, Richmond, Virginia, which was the capital of the Confederacy, came from a time frame where we were denied the right to have our rights. And I decided that I mentioned this in the presentation you heard me in, that I wanted to take my artistic talents beyond country borders to Paris. I wanted to go to school in Paris and stay, not come back. And my parents were having none of that. And they said, no, you're going to Virginia Union University, which was in Richmond, and they didn't have an art program there. So I suffered my art, but I decided I would do something that related to humanity. And I took small steps with building bridges. I started building bridges, I think, when I was young, but as I got older and gained certain skills, I had an artist way of building the relationships and looking at things in people that I guess for me went back to what artists look at: colors, shapes, relationships between the two. And I was able to interface with a lot of people without even doing business at that point, because they believed me, they trusted me, they liked the way I had a creative twist to things that were a part of what they needed to do. So I guess the baby steps were rooted in my artistic background. I listened, I understood, and then I acted. I made no assumptions. And I also, as I listened, I looked at what this particular potential client, how they could relate to some other folks I knew. And I did a lot of co-branding very early on with like organizations and people who had never met each other. Does that answer your
So
question?
yeah, no, definitely. So, and not only that answer, but that's also uh, that's that's more than answering, because I put that in a context where there is a lot of things playing against you. Um, the kind of environment, and especially, the fact to be like a woman, to be black, and despite all of that, you trying to refine where your strength is. Can you tell us a little, give us some kind of a example of a really difficult situation you had to overcome?
Well, there are many. Keeping it black, let me keep it black again. I was hired to be the director of public relations at a college in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And the college was in a predominantly white area, and the student population was predominantly white. However, from a business sense, it made sense for the college to actively engage in promoting diversity. And again, because of my network, in that case in Pittsburgh, I was able to build some relationships for the college with, it was a Catholic college with Catholic schools in the area. And I also had a relationship with the owner of a TV station, not a network, but I guess we would say almost like a cable station, but he had an active viewer audience. And I asked him if he would give a certain amount of money to advertise the college free of charge to the college on his station. And he gave $300,000 in free advertising. And so
Wow.
I did a lot to diversify the college and to get the stories out that were goodwill stories about the college, and they were transformed. And after I did all of this, the president brought in a white woman and he gave me a made up position. And that was a very difficult situation because he also took my budget. And I made it what it was, but then he needed to have a different face, I guess he felt, in order to bring in the kinds of dollars that he felt I couldn't bring in that I have brought in other settings. And so I had the decision to make. I was a single mom with 2 kids. What do I do? Um, I did not have the capabilities to leave, but I did have an exit strategy because I was going to be leaving in the summer to relocate to Washington, D.C. I sued the college, but I did not sue the college to bring in money for myself. I sued the college to get themselves together with respect to diversity management so that no one else would have the chance of going through what I went through. So some people would have sued for money, but I sued for change.
Wow. We got like a few comment here. I found that quite interesting. I think that's based on what you've said.
How do you,
Um,
how do you, how do you, for people take you seriously rather than you represent women or Black? Okay, well, I have to give my age on that one. I'm 71, and they take me seriously because I have years of putting up with crap. So the more you know through experiences, and it doesn't always have to be because of age, but because of where you were, if you were working at a corporation and there were some biases tied to you that you knew were different from your coworkers, then you basically have to make some critical decisions on how you're going to either weather it or exit, and know the importance of developing mentor relationships within that corporation. The person who hired you should be critical to your ability to navigate, and also can be your advocate where there is conflict. And so I say, in terms of having people take you seriously, you have to be serious about what you want to do and what you're willing to put up with.
Can I add something to that? I actually like that answer because I was going to go with Sylvia and say yes. A lot of times I get that being younger or junior to a lot of people, and I get dismissed by. I have people telling me if I present my ideas. The first I've worked with a person who asked me, "So, how many years have you had experience of running your own business?" And I go, none. At that point, I was still employed by him, and he had run the company for 25 years. And I went, "What? No, sorry, I don't have my business. I work for you. You know that. What are you asking?" And he said, "Well, I've had 25 years of running this business, so shut up." It was literally like that. And I understand what you're saying, which kind of really resonates with me because it's not just your age. It's not always a person who's willing to stand up for you, but you yourself need to be serious about what are you willing to take and when you want to say, okay, that's enough now. So that's actually really good. And I didn't want to interrupt earlier, but I liked your story of keep keeping faith. Now, a lot of times, I mean, Kevin and I, we have only recently started doing this. Our values were aligned, so we thought, okay, now why don't we work together? Well, obviously, when you're starting off as an entrepreneur, there's lots of ups and downs. Usually, lots of downs to begin with. You don't start making a lot of money straight away and all of that. So how do you stay strong or keep faith during that phase of time? I know you kind of answered that by saying having a strong plan. And on one hand, yes, I get that, but your emotions sometimes overtake, supersede your logic. So, how do you stay strong in that moment?
So, for me, everything's a story. The art of storytelling, they say, is a powerful tool for letting people know what they can do. So, with respect to your question, I'm going to go back to my very first job I had, that was a significant job in terms of the connections I made through the job, and who was my mentor, who had already overcome insurmountable odds. As the first African American woman to represent the AFL-CIO abroad, as the African American woman after the African countries gained independence, who went in and had relationships with all of the new presidents of the formerly colonized countries and formed labor schools there. She had a green light to work in each of the country markets that she had targeted because the presidents had endorsed the importance of her creating an opportunity for revenue generation in their countries through these labor schools. And so she had all kinds of odds when she was coming up. I mean, she was born in the early 1900s, and her mom and her immigrated from Panama to New York City. And so the Garment Workers Union was her source of revenue throughout her life. And she saw more in me than I saw in myself because I did not come from an empowered female background. And she saw such potential, and she said, I just had to not let any adversary stop me from what my purpose was. She told me it was amazing once you were consistent with your purpose, once you asked questions that let people know that you weren't going to, I want to say weren't stupid, that's the best way I can say it, that you will gain their attention. I didn't care if I was fired or not. Some people care about that, but I knew I had something to contribute. I did have a unique differentiator in all of my jobs with this very, I guess, eccentric blend of art with everything else that was more straight lined. And so I built excitement in places. And I realized too, very often when you are different in a workplace, people are very if they are equal in your status there, they can feel a little bit of insecure around you, but even let people know that I was not there to take anything from them, their light. How can I help you to amplify your light? Because this is just a passing thing for me. I'm not retiring from here because as an artist we just keep it moving. So I always say, have I answered your question? Because everything has a story with it that lets you understand how I arrived at who I am, rather, because I always listened to the people who are no longer here. And I was surrounded by some very powerful African American women in my lifetime because I sought them out because I did not have that experience in growing up. And I was the oddball in my family.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Go on, Tevin.
Now, so I just wanted to react. So, are you actually? Do you mean that you were actively looking for people who were able to guide you,
Yes,
or you
definitely.
were passive? So you were not passive. So you were
No, it was
really
very
actively.
deliberate. I worked for the National Council of Negro Women, which was founded in 1935 by Mary McLeod Bethune. It was an organization of organizations, meaning they represented every type of Black women's organization in the country. And I ran a juvenile justice initiative for African American girls adjudicated delinquent. And I had 6 target cities that I worked in. So there were people in those cities. I had staff there, but there were people in those cities who represented anyone from the mayor's office, all sectors of the community, because at that time, girls were being arrested for getting pregnant. Boys had non-residential treatment programs. Girls were being treated in a very sexist way. So yes, I had access to so many women. They're all gone now. And I stand on their shoulders. So even if I thought of doing it a different way, I hear their voices in my head. It's no way. They did it when we didn't even have laws to protect Blacks, when there was no civil rights legislation.
You know, I kind of noticed that when you were telling your story of arts, how you wanted to go to Paris, and even your credo. I think that is, if I want to take one thing from today, I mean, we still have a lot of time, but I think this really rings a bell with me, which is relationships. Because right from the get-go, even when you didn't have a business, you started building those bridges. You connected with people. And just now, as you said, that you are proactively looking for people to guide you, I think that is what keeps us going as well. So as we were talking about faith, when you're surrounded by the right kind of people, and by right kind of people, I mean people who are not just going, yes, they're not your yes men, but they're there to pull you up or push you up, either way. That's when you can really grow. And from your stories, I can see that, because a lot of times we are surrounded by people who pull us down, who condemn you, criticize you, always see, oh, but how will this work? You know, it's always like that, rather than, okay, how about this, how about that, have you thought about this?
Right.
So,
and I've been around those kinds of people. I say cancel that. Fear is a manifestation of doubt. If you doubt you can achieve something, you fear doing it. So be fearless. And my mentor from the National Council of Negro Women, I don't know if I called her name, but it's Nada Springer Kemp. She said to me, our madness is part of our survival. So you got to be in your head. Maybe people think you're mad, but you're basically letting people know you're determined to achieve your goals. And the other thing is, if I don't achieve the goal, I don't get upset. I say, well, let me see how I could have done that differently. I evaluate, because it could have been the wrong kind of partnership, or it could have been just something that was not workable in that season.
yeah.
Be fearless. Yes.
Sorry, Patricia. We receive so much wisdom, and sometimes I really need to write it down so we don't forget about that, because it's really powerful. Fear is the manifestation of doubt. So
Yes.
be fearless.
Yes. If you doubt, you can achieve something. Now, if you put it in your head, you could do it. Why are you doubting it? First of all, you may have some voices, some detractors. They are all around. You know who they are.
Yeah.
Form some new relationships. Put them in your friends with no benefits category.
Friends with no benefit category. I really like that. So yeah, so far I'm just listening and really trying to once again, we want you to learn from people who got much more experience than us, and we are already learning quite a lot. So you mentioned about having like a plan, to mention about some mentors, some guideline. You mentioned about keeping the faith. Um, what else would you say is required to be successful despite all the difficulties of entrepreneurship?
Well, it's important, of course, to surround yourself with people who will be your allies and will be your spokespersons. Because
Okay.
the perfect thing is when other people are talking about what you're doing to their people. And so they are other people who could be influencers. And so it's like this 50 game changers of PR piece that PR News, I found that on the internet. I don't even know how they found me. I did do that. I sent you that case study. That was PR News. But that didn't have anything to do with that award, because they said that they had a team of experts who were looking for those people, and they may have found something that tied to something unusual I did in PR that had an artistic twist to it. I don't know.
Wow. Okay.
But that
Once
really,
again,
that's interesting, because they did not let me know they made me that. They just announced it online. And wow. I mean, I was honored. I didn't boast about it. Actually, I just posted that. That's years ago that they did that, about 2 years ago or so. So, because, I try not to reside in ego, but I said, well, no, in this case, I need to let people know this, that, yeah, I'm building these bridges even more internationally. So this is probably a good thing to post on my social media.
of course, I completely agree with
Thank you, Richard.
Richard. Great insight. Yeah, for sure. That really makes me think about that post we made. Was we created that post with a um, lifting like a women. You
Yeah.
know, that's sometimes the expression that we hear. And so far, I have to say that we can definitely see that women can lift and can lift really heavy.
May
You are
I
a good example of that.
may I interject something, please,
Of course.
related to the relationships piece again? Well,
Hmm.
I did mention that I did 3 trade missions to the UK, and I wanted to do something because we were in Virginia, where I'm from, of course, I mentioned that, and I was doing some consulting there for Multicultural Tourism magazine, and I was in meetings with Jamestown 2007, who at the time they were planning the celebratory year of the founding of the New World at Jamestown. So we know what all of that was about, taking the land from the Indians and bringing in the slaves. But again, I'm a business person, so I had to be in meetings. And as a result, I met a man, Alex King, who was from Kent, England, and he was intrigued and he invited me to speak at a conference. And that was good because I had in my sight, well, as I'm putting together this trade mission, Kent can also be a market that I pursue. And he was the chair of the Kent County Council, so he was an influencer. I was also Googling for a woman in business in London, and Yvonne Thompson's name kept popping up. And so I don't even know how I got her email address, to be honest, but I act like a private investigator when I have to find someone, and everything is online. And so I found her and I reached out and she was interested. So while I was there speaking in Kent afterwards, I went to London and met Yvonne, and we had a very good teaming relationship. It was a win-win because I was bringing people over and she was hosting events, and people were networking, and it was just fantastic. And one of the persons I met while there, I don't know if you know her, is Margot Rodway Brown, and she used to do Adornment London. So she was very keen on these kinds of major cultural events. So I always say sometimes the universe is on time, because then I learned that Donda, who I went to college with, was Kanye West's mother. And I never knew that. And I said,
Wow.
and thank you, Richard, again. You're my PR person. So this one, oh wow, that's so sweet. I'm old enough to want to cry, to be honest. Thank you, Sylvia.
Tears are allowed here.
So Donda, I put it out there. I said, I really want to go to one of her book signings. I wonder when she's going to be in this area. I was living in the DC metro area. I kid you not. That night, I saw a post that she was going to be at this bookstore the next week. Oh, I said, okay, thank you, God. And so I went to the bookstore, and Donda was very angry with the representative from the publishers because no one was there. And it was a Black-owned bookstore. And her publishers put her primarily in Borders. Borders was the store of choice for her book, Raising Kanye. And so she was arguing, I told you I didn't want to be in Borders. I told you I wanted to come to the community. There are Black folks I want to reach, particularly Black women, and they don't have money to be going all the way to Borders on public transportation. So now you know where Kanye got his personality from. And so she said, what are you doing now, Patricia? I said, I'm in PR. And she said, wow, I really need you. When I get back from London, because Kanye is going to be in the Princess Di tribute concert, I'd want to talk with you about some PR for my book promotion. I said, you're going to London? I said, I know people there. What do you want to do there? She said, well, I just want a book signing. I said, okay. So I did some research, I did some calls, and Margot was the one that really wanted to do it. And so Margot, and I give all credit to her, shout out to Margot. She got MTV Europe to be a sponsor. She got Waterstone's Books to order the books and do a private reception for Black women in business before the book signing. She got Plan International to be a sponsor. So when we got there, Donda had a whirlwind of events, and the paparazzi were roped around the street at Waterstone's Books. It was a phenomenal success. And I could not have done that for her other than I had built some ties with London females in particular, someone like Margot, who was very skilled at putting on that kind of massive week for her because there were so many parts of it. Donda wanted to go to a home for pregnant women, and Margot had someone that she knew who could facilitate that, and so much media, so much media. So I just wanted to bring that out because you never know how much your network defines your net worth. I have always been one, I think this is my artist self. I don't do it for money. I do it to make a difference. And for me, when I make a difference, I make money. I mean, I read on social media what people are saying about me. And I said, well, I don't need a funeral now because you know how people talk at funerals about how I've heard it all. So I'm done. So again, it's a core value that's been rooted in me since childhood. So it does come across as trustworthy. Just to add, when Donda and I got back here, she had an event for Kanye in Chicago for his foundation at the time. And we did that in 2 months. We planned and got it done. And I'm just saying that I had the formula, I had the relationships, so we had a favorable outcome for everything we did. We also did some book signings here before she passed, and we were on the beginning stages of getting a book sponsor for her nationwide book tour, which was something very, very important to her. But of course, as most of you know, she died. But that opened doors. I just want to say, working for Kanye West's mother opened the doors to Trey Songz. I guess some of you in this generation are familiar with Trey Songz. And he was from Petersburg, and I was working for an organization as a consultant for families of children with disabilities. I take these causes that very often people don't really pay a lot of attention to, but how many of us could be impacted by a child with a disability? And it was a statewide organization, and they wanted to do a major event. So they had an event called the Virginia Icon that they had done it, but they hadn't done it in a way that gave them brand visibility. And so I did a statewide search for talent, and we had the talent, and then I needed to have the person with the story that says don't give up over insurmountable odds. And I looked at all of the talent from Virginia because Pharrell is from Virginia, Missy Elliott. There's some really great talent from Virginia, Chris Brown, but Trey was the one because his mom was a single parent and she struggled. She was a single parent as a young teenager. And she used all kinds of government resources to raise her child. And he said he wanted to be in the entertainment industry, and she gave him 1 year. She said, if you don't do it in 1 year, you're going to have to go in the military, because she didn't have any money to support him. So I needed to find her. I didn't know her, but I needed to find her. And I went to a friend who worked at the Richmond radio station, which covered Petersburg market too. And she knew someone who knew her as a friend. And all I needed was to be able to connect with her. And they made that happen. She said, this is something near and dear to me. I am going to get him to do it. He did it at no cost. And the audience was just thrilled, particularly the young girls.
Wow.
Worked with her on some other campaigns. So I don't go to the entertainers. I try to find the moms, because I know the moms and their sons are tight. If the mom says yes, it's yes.
For sure.
Yeah, that's a great story. I actually wanted to ask you before you started, I had a question on my mind, and now I have two. So, well, firstly, yes, I would also want you to tell us more about your work and in PR. And but before I heard the story, this has now come up when you talked about your work. But before that, what I wanted to ask you, because I'm a mother to a daughter who's coming up to be a teenager now, and my niece who's already a teenager. So they were chatting this afternoon, and I kind of got a lot from them, which is these days children, and I don't know, it's not these days. I mean, I struggled with that too. How do you find your purpose? Because your story is so
Yeah.
inspiring, but then going back to the basics, like, because what my niece was asking today, so she's like, yeah, people talk about this, people talk about that, but I yet don't know what I want to do. And how do you find your purpose? Because I struggled. I did a master's in economics, and I was becoming a chartered accountant and all that, and then I'm now into education. I switched so many times because I didn't know where I wanted to be. I tried things, and I made quite well. I mean, I did really well in my exams, got good degrees and everything, but I wasn't enjoying it. I had the privilege to, my parents were supportive enough to say, you know what, that's okay. If you don't like it, try something else. We're here to back you up. But not everyone is in that position. So, how do you find your purpose?
Well, my purpose is really my history. I was in a different time from you two, and I was in a different situation. I could see a lot of things environmentally that I wanted to, that were just plain wrong. Segregation is wrong. Oppression is wrong. And, I didn't think of the fact that this path would not make me a great deal of money, if you will, because people don't care about people. Um, I just knew that I had to make that difference. I knew I had enough experiences in what I observed in my home, what I observed in the conditions my parents had in their workplace, the stories that the Black teachers told us not to be like. They were the ones more than likely who got me solidly into my purpose because they were the extended family. These were segregated schools. I had a Russian teacher. He was Russian, but other than that, everybody was Black all the way through my first grade through 12th grade. And everybody was drilling us in the same way. You are not what people call you. You are not even what they write about in the history books. So you have to be the change. You have to make us proud of you. So it's not just your parents, for me, who wanted me to be someone they could brag about. It was also the teachers, and it was the ministers. It was the whole village of Black folks where I was raised. And so most of us in my age group who were raised in the South came out with that kind of situation. If you look at many of the leaders, most of them came from the South, the civil rights leaders, etc. All I can say is it was grounded in my value system. And I have two young people. My son is 37 and my daughter is 34. And I say I raised them as a single mom. And I know there is a burning piece in both of them, but because they did not start the fire, because they did not go through all of these burning coals that I went through, sometimes younger people don't realize what they can do because other people have helped them to get there. My teachers just gave us the roadmap. We had to do it. So, I mean, I say for younger generations, you have so many opportunities that we did not have. And the world is far different now from the way it was. It's a global village now, and there are so many pressing problems that are intersectional. So I would say just recognize that the world needs you if you have talent, and you have to put sometimes your greed in the background. You have to look at what people critically need and that they need you.
I like what you said here, and you did kind of touch upon this earlier as well when you said, when you're talking about getting this boy to perform, and you mentioned that you didn't do this, or even now when you started off, you didn't do this for the money. You didn't think I wanted to be a big name when you
Oh
wanted to.
no,
You
no,
did
I
it
didn't.
for, yeah, for the people. You thought that the segregation is wrong, and you did it for the people. And in that case too, in every case, that all the stories that you've told us so far, we could see it was the connection, the people, and that success, naturally the outcome was, yes, success, money, everything.
Right.
That's
Because
not the goal.
absolutely. And all people, not just people who look like me. I now live and Devin knows this, in the most unlikely place that I would have ever thought I would be in any season of my life. I live in a very conservative community, and it's near Gettysburg, PA, and I live on a farm, and I don't have animals. I have herbs. I have plants, beautiful plants and herbs and other veggies, and so I married someone, and that's how I arrived here. I had not been married for years, and he found me on a dating site, and I so that's how that happened. So the bottom line is, when I came here, I said, well, how am I going to navigate this when the Confederate flags are prominent and everything? The messages from my past were in my present, but I was not my past anymore. I was this person who built bridges, not walls. And so I said, where are the women in this community? And none of them looked like me. But I built bridges because I think for some of them, my personality in a conservative community where even women want to be further ahead, ignited them, if you will. So now I have more to do than I have time to do. And I am I'm doing some work with an organization around diversity issues. And I'm a part of a group called We Women Empowered. Shout out to them. And so slowly things are happening. And I just say to most people, you are the future. I am the sage. So whatever I give you, take it, go with it. Because I'm, not going to stay in this place forever. And I don't mean in terms of leaving. I just mean I have to do other things. So you know what your problems are. You know what your strategy should be. I'm just to validate that you're on the right track, because change can happen. It happened for me. It can happen for you, because we're in different ethnic groups. So you just have to believe in yourself.
Yeah, I
And
think
they are. I'm proud of the achievements we are making.
Yeah, Richard and Sylvia made similar points, and yeah, totally agree with that. And I love how you quoted it, building bridges, not walls, because
Right.
I recently moved to France, and I get people asking me these questions all the time that, oh, but I am Indian. How do people treat you there? We've heard stories, horror stories of people with color being treated differently, badly, all of that. And I think if you go with that mindset that, oh, well, I'm a person of color and I'm going to be treated badly, and you kind of start with that foundation and you start building the wall, then yes, naturally you would come across as a person who's closed off, and then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Whereas you genuinely came from a background where you were treated differently. I mean, there was the time when, and I hate admitting this or saying this, but yes, I think Richard said this earlier, women are still treated differently, especially Black women.
Absolutely.
You went head on with a motive. I'm here to build bridges. I'm connecting with people. It's relations. And
right.
So
and you can't be afraid to show up, because believe me, because I don't necessarily give a distinguishing characteristic by phone. Let's just put it that way. So in one setting, I was invited to the meeting to be a part of the group, and I walked in and I could tell people weren't expecting me. But the next thing I knew, they wanted to nominate me as vice president of the organization.
wow, that's amazing. Yeah.
So, I mean, you show up, you recognize that there is something you can give. In PR, there's always something you can give. It is no place I can go that doesn't need PR or need some advice on PR, because PR builds public awareness, understanding, and support for what you're doing. and public recognition doesn't happen. It's planned meticulously. We
Wow,
call
that's
it a pseudo event. We
we did
call it a
hear
pseudo
this.
event. Did you hear what I said? We call it in PR a pseudo event, a planned, calculated strategy to get the desired response. Devin's
We definitely
shaking his
have got
head.
a lot to. Yeah, no, definitely. I'm taking. There's so much I'm taking. I'm learning, and that's the idea anyway of this podcast is really to bring like wisdom, and not only to bring wisdom, but to have also people that are generous enough to share, about the experience, so other people can
Right.
avoid the pitfalls. Now, so that's really nice. I've um, I'm just checking like some of my notes that I took just to make sure that people. Okay, so it's another comment of Richard. She is so genuine, rare
Oh,
these
well,
days,
thank you,
for sure.
Richard. Richard, we need to be on some kind of connect because I want to meet you. Because Richard is hearing me completely. I mean, I have no secrets anymore. Richard knows everything. Seriously, I am genuine. I totally. They say keep it real. I've always been that way, Richard, from a childhood. Do you want me to tell that story about the book, Devin?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
book.
Please go on.
So a 4-year-old black child, Richard, and I'm just a black person in body. I'm a soul in a human body. I just want to let you know that the colors just separate us. So I choose to not even deal with that. I'm just saying from a point of view of what my experiences have been. But I don't go into settings saying, "Oh, I'm black. Let me feel insecure." So the bottom line is that my mother was a domestic worker, and let me say it real quickly because it's almost time to end. And there was one mother that she worked for that sent me her daughter's hand-me-downs, and particularly the books were always of interest to me. And I read them ferociously, and I saw the pictures, I saw the communities that looked like very nice communities, and I saw people who were not my color. I didn't see any people my color, and I was for. And so I said, wow, one day I'd like to have that. So that's what a child would say. It's not to say we were poor, but certainly the pictures in the white communities look far better than anything I had experienced. So sometimes my mother had to take me to work with her because she didn't have a sitter. And I was happy to go to work with her because the little girl always had new books and I could read the new books. And so we would sit side by side and she would read a page and I would read a page. And invariably, she would stumble over her page. And she couldn't say, Patricia, I don't know that word because they taught their kids the rules. I was inferior to her. So she would pass me the book and she would say, Patricia, why don't you read this page? And I would read the page and I would read the words correctly. And so her mother would ask my mother, how could I read better than her daughter? And my mother didn't have an answer. So she kind of shied away with giving a direct answer. But my mother told me one day we had left, we were on the bus. She said that the lady always asked her, why could I read better than her daughter? I said, well, Mama, they gave me the books and I read them all the time. Catherine has everything. I don't have what she has. I take time to read and read and read. That's why I can read better than Catherine. Period in that. Repetition, repetition, excellence, excellence. So, so yes, Richard, I'm genuine. PR is key. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes, PR. And I think
yeah,
PR
and
helps.
I
I'm so glad I got the background in PR because I didn't really know what I was going to do when I suffered my art. But clearly the PR, look, it's mind management. It's propaganda. Propaganda is neither good nor bad. It all depends on how it's used. So I'm saying that to say I don't just go into a situation. I literally study I do a lot of research too on people that I'm trying to connect with or influence in any way. And so the PR is so key in all of our lives. Some folks get angry about something that happened and they kill the deal. No, don't get angry. Think about a strategy. And people don't want you to come into the setting angry, even anyway, even if they have offended you. I go in and I say, so how can we do this differently? I really want to build a relationship. I feel there's something we both can benefit from through affiliation. So let's talk it through. I'm really anxious. What's your schedule?
Wow, wow.
Yeah, powerful.
Diffuse it.
Yeah, that's definitely, and I'm pretty sure that Hervé would certainly connect with you because you're talking about PR, and Hervé is actually like an entrepreneur, a hard worker. He started like a company in Asia, in the fashion industry,
Nice.
Fidelon with sustainability, and I know that it's extending also and reaching like a Europe now. So yeah, Hervé, if you need some kind of advice, some kind
Well,
of
I need to, I think if you can send me all of y'all invite me to whatever your social media platforms are. I'm on LinkedIn. What am I on? I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram.
and you also have like a podcast here. I think that we,
Yeah,
as
my
we finish,
podcast, that tells you a
please.
lot. Yes, I have a YouTube channel under Patricia Evelyn Green, and it's some of my Patriciaisms. You know what I mean by Patriciaisms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Richard. So yeah, so I really want to build these bridges. Particularly, I think I have mostly younger demographics on here, and I just love y'all. I really do. I say y'all because I'm from the South. Um, Anything I can do to be a resource, anything, even just talking things through, I embrace that because my generation, I can't say anything to them now. They're, you know, we have
We take it. We
we've
take
done
it.
everything. We're just tired. But you all are the future. And it's important, I feel, to pass the baton. That segues to what's the chew. Now, what's the chew? You wanted to say something about what's the chew.
Yeah, because I really wanted before we wrap up, and for me to make like a summary of everything, a lot of the information that you gave today. I also wanted to tell people that you got a really great program with the What the Chew. I actually watched 2 episodes, and that's really great. You have like kind of a space where you got people from different generation, and that's really what I found amazing. Great energy. So, can you tell us a little more about What the Chew
Yes.
before we finish?
Yes, I'm the executive director, yeah, of my friend's nonprofit in Richmond, the African American Heritage Association of Virginia. And it promotes knowledge sharing, not what we are called, but who we are. Know your history, know your story. And we have a dialogue called What's the Chew for the women. And I've recruited an intergenerational panel of experts, and they are from their 30s, their early 30s to their early 70s. And I have a co-moderator who's a millennial, and I'm the baby boomer. And we address topics related to culture, health, education, and wealth germane to our communities. And I'm telling you, some of these women are just, they know what the situations are, particularly the millennials. That's why I say you guys are the future, because I am just impressed by the voices of these women that I can pass the baton to. And we're going to have the same kind of format under a different name for men. And I've already asked if you will consider being a panelist, because I want to do What's the Chew Global. So,
Nice.
one success just builds on another. And again, if you go to the YouTube channel, we do have the episodes of What's the Chew. We have 12 episodes. We were on LinkedIn, so we switched to StreamYard. So the StreamYard ones are on my YouTube channel.
So, what is the YouTube channel? The YouTube channel name?
Patricia Evelyn Green.
Patricia Evelyn Green. And I
And
like that you got a P, E, and G for purpose, evolution, and growth. Is that
yes,
right?
positive
No.
evolution growth. Yeah, yeah. And that those thoughts that I'm talking about are totally extemporaneous. And so I have a millennial who's my person here who handles those podcasts for me, those patricianisms for me rather. And I can't script it. I just say I'm going to talk about this today.
Before Kevin wraps up, I'm definitely going to say I should have asked him this before, but
Great.
he's going to agree with me here, which is I think we should have you back because I have 1,000 more questions, and I know you've got to go and we're running out of time, but I have literally 1,000 more questions for you. You've answered so many already, but I want to know more about,
Thanks,
how do I start off as a mother? I mean, I'm a mother and I've been pushing things off, saying, giving myself excuses. No, I can't do this just yet. I'm a mother. But I only have the one, and I still have support from family and everyone. And you did this with 2 children, being a single mom, and I bet lots of women out there, in general, people out there would benefit from your advice. So yes, we should definitely have you back.
Well, I'm happy. Just, I serve in a way that shows love. So, just let me serve you in any way that you may need to grow your brand.
Thank you, Patricia.
You're welcome. I hope that you will tune in to What's the Chew. It comes on, I know I'm 5 hours behind you. So, right, 5. So it comes on 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. our time, which would make it kind of late your time, but not too late.
Yeah.
And plus it's on, you can always see the episodes on my YouTube. However, you can ask questions live, of course, if you're there.
Perfect.
And today, just to let you know real quickly, today we're talking about education or miseducation of Black children through how they are reflected in media images and other forms of communications.
Oh, brilliant. I'll try and join it if my bandwidth permits me, because my internet is terrible. I'm temporarily located in the UK. But yeah, because I am in the field of education, and there's so much that I would love to talk about, but especially with regards to Black children in education. So yeah, definitely.
And well, thank you both for having me, and thank you, audience, for tuning in and the wonderful statements of affirmations. I appreciate them.
Thank you very much, Patricia. It has been such a pleasure. We have learned a lot. So as a kind of a summary for any entrepreneurs out there, times are quite difficult, but with the kind of advice of Patricia, we should all be able to be successful. So let's have a plan, a strong plan. Know your purpose. So, no, know your purpose. Have a strong plan. Have mentors, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Keep faith when you got those challenges, and surround yourself with really good people that can be your allies and your how do you say spoke people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, spokespersons, your influencers. They influence others to buy into you.
Perfect. Patricia, thank you very much. And we hopefully will have you soon again.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.